It's now or never. This video gives me anxiety. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Mayma, and if you are new here, then welcome. If you're not, then welcome back. As you can see, this is kind of a rough video to do for me. Whenever I try to talk about this specific incidents or events leading up to this incident, I get a lot of scatterbrain because I've been in a way avoiding this topic as much as I can. For today's video, I'm going to do a story time. I think this is actually my first ever story time on this channel, so yay. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do part 1 and part 2 because this took such a long time that I'm definitely gonna need 2 parts to explain it. Otherwise, it's gonna be 2 hours long and nobody wants that. So part 1 is going to be how and why I went to jail. And part 2 is going to be explaining more about what actually happened in jail and what happened when I got out. There was a warrant out for my arrest after I got out of jail. Anyways, jumping way too ahead of myself here. So let's back up a little bit. In order for me to explain to you why I went to jail, I'm going to have to explain to you some other things like DACA, immigration, and all of that, just so you have kind of a knowledge and a background story of what actually happened to me and what led to me being arrested. Quick background about me and my immigration status. Believe it or not, I was not born in this country. English is definitely my primary language, but it is not my first or my second. So my mom brought me and my sister when I was 9 years old, and my sister at the time was 4 or 5, something like that. The original plan was we were going to come spend the summer, but it turned to us staying here. A 9-year-old, I don't think knows anything about immigration. If 9-year-olds are supposed to know, then my bad. But I didn't know what borders were. I didn't know what citizenship was. I didn't know what visas were. All I knew is I was going to see my mom, who lived in America. To me, it was a complete innocent thing. A child has no decision whether they can stay or leave, you know? It was 100% up to her to decide whether she can bring us here for a visit, whether she can make us stay, whatever. We ended up staying, and we lived here basically since we came back in 2004. Yeah, so basically I was brought here as a child, and I've lived here ever since. But I don't think I could ever live in another country. Definitely not my original country. I don't think the way I was brought up, the lifestyle, the big mouth that I have now, because of the American culture and growing up here and the influence that I had, all my friends are from here, I would never see myself living there, because this is my home now. I'm already going way off topic here. Fast forward to when I was 18, there was a program that came out called DACA. So DACA stands for, I'm reading it because I honestly I have problems speaking in general, any language, not just English. DACA stands for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So it was basically a program made for kids who were in my situation that were brought here at such a young age that they did not have the choice or the authority to make that decision. It's a very, 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 very strict program. But basically, you had to come here as a kid, and you had to have been living here for at least 5 years. So it's not like anybody can bring their kid and then just apply for them to go on DACA. You know, it was specifically made for children who were already in this situation. It's for people like me who went to middle school here, elementary school, high school, and now they're adults and they're just stuck. We couldn't go to college because you need a social security to do that. You couldn't go get a job. So DACA came out. When you get DACA, you have to either be working full-time or you have to be going to school full-time. They can't just grant you DACA and then you're just chilling, not doing anything. You know what I mean? You cannot have any kind of criminal record. You have to have a crispy clean record. And every 2 years, you have to renew your DACA. It's around $600 or $700 fee. You have to renew it every 2 years because they want to do that background check on you every single 2 years. You are able to get your license when you're on DACA. You can get a job. You can go to school. You can buy a house. You have the same rights as a green card holder or a U.S. citizen. The only thing that is different, obviously you can't vote because you're not a citizen. Green card holders can't vote either. You have to be a U.S. citizen to vote, which makes perfect sense. So yeah, that's DACA. That's basically a quick rundown of what DACA is, and I was on it. I got got my DACA when I was 18. I renewed it every 2 years. I've held a job consistently throughout the entire time. Consistently was paying taxes and contributing to society in the best way that I can. There was never an issue with my DACA. I always renewed it every 2 years. I always got it back. Fast forward to 2017. DACA was being on the line. Trump wanted to discontinue the program and come out with a better program, or maybe just discontinue the program overall. There was a whole Republican, Democratic thing happening where the Democrats did not want to fund the wall unless he gave them a DACA deal, and he didn't want to give them a DACA deal unless they funded the wall. You have about 1 million people on DACA in this country who are just waiting for their life to be resolved. I'm not gonna lie, it was a very scary moment watching the news every day. What am I gonna do if I can't renew my DACA? What am I gonna do if I have to go back? Not only is my whole life here, but a huge portion of my family is here. My sisters, my mom, my aunts, my cousins, the majority of that is here. So back to the topic. Now that you kind of understand a little bit of how DACA is and how it works, I can start to explain the causes that led to my arrest and why I ended up going to jail. Like I said, I have a lot of little sisters. We have different dads. They have a dad that I don't share with them, but we all share the same mom. So I have 5 younger sisters. I would say 2 or 3 of them who are just really, really bad. My stepdad he's just not been the greatest stepdad. You know, he's not been in the picture consistently. He's kind of a shitty person in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. Like, sorry if you're watching this. Not really, actually. You're a shitty person. But they just didn't have that consistency of a good male role model in their life. They didn't have that structure like I did growing up. Even though I didn't have my dad in the picture, I had a lot of uncles around who were very good role models. I had my grandfather, who was the best father figure I could imagine. So one of my sisters is just, I would say, the worst one of them all. I love her, don't get me wrong. I remember this day because it was a Saturday. Back then, like in my schedule, I would only have Saturdays off every week. So I remember because it was my only day off of the week. I just worked like 6 days straight and I was really looking forward to my day off. And I remember I had a meeting at work for like an hour, and my mom and my sisters ended up picking me up. We went shopping. It was a completely normal day, and when we got home, my mom asked her to take out the trash, and she started like freaking out, just being overall rude and throwing pots and pans, and this is what really upset me. She was throwing very heavy and dangerous objects, kicking them everywhere, and it was just like a crazy scene in the kitchen, and she was kicking them at my mom. So I had to put my hand out to actually block one, which gave me a huge mark. But instantly I was like, how can, you know, when you have younger siblings and you're the oldest, I feel like you have ownership, especially when the father's not in the picture, to discipline them. I'm not saying that what I did is right, but it was a sister-sister thing. And the fact that she was cursing and throwing pots and pans at my mom made me very, very angry. And I reacted and I smacked her across the face. This made her angry, obviously. She stormed out the door barefoot and just kept running, like literally running. She ran all the way to some store down the street, and she's barefoot, and she just sat out there crying with my freaking huge mark on her eye because I hit her with my nail in the eye when I smacked her, which I really felt bad about because that's not what I wanted to do at all. So of course this is not a normal scene, and the cops end up seeing her sitting there, and they asked her what happened. They drove back to my house with her. Now my sisters, 2 or 3 of them, are so bad that the town cops know who they are because of how terrible they are and how many times the cops have been called on them in my neighborhood and in school in many situations. So the cops knew exactly what I was dealing with here. They just felt bad in this situation because she was a minor, 11 at the time, I believe. Obviously, they're just trying to follow the rules and do what's right. And they came in, they saw the scene in the kitchen, took the report, and unfortunately, they had to arrest me. The cop explained everything to me. He didn't even want to handcuff me inside the house because he didn't want my little tiny sister to see it, and he didn't want my other other sisters to see it. He thought it was not the right thing to do, and which I really appreciate. We were talking on the way to the station, and he was like, you know, I feel bad that you're in this situation. I understand how your sister is, and not to worry that, you know, sister incidences happen all the time. I've never done anything wrong, literally have nothing on my record. I think she has a bigger record than any adult that I know. She's something special, and I love her, don't get me wrong. It's my sister. I love her. I would do anything for her. I would protect her at all costs. I would go after anybody that comes after my sister. So we're talking on the way. He took me to the station, and this was around September when this happened. And this was on a Saturday. Remember, it's the weekend. So technically, when there is an arrest on the weekend, you're not supposed to be released until Monday. At least that's what he told me. You are supposed to be transported to a jail and spend the weekend there and be released on a Monday. And he felt so bad. He told me, he's like, you know, because they label it as domestic violence. Domestic violence laws have been really strict lately. I wish I could just let you go right now, but there is going to be a minimum of 6 hours holding. Honestly, the fact that I was supposed to spend the weekend in the actual jail, not even in the, like, he kept me in the station and put me in one of the holding units there, was so nice to me the entire time. He brought me a giant box of books. He let me keep my hoodie on. He let me keep my shoes on. He gave me a bunch of things to write on just to stay busy in the 6 hours. And then he wrote a really nice report, gave me my court date when the 6 hours was over. He was talking to me, gave me my court date. He told me not to worry. He's seen many cases like this, and that after I go to court, I'm probably going to get some kind of probation, or if anything, it's going to just get dismissed. Although this is wrong and you shouldn't do it, it is your sister, and the judge can be a bit more understanding because of that. Yeah, the court date was September 20th, by the way. I got a lawyer after that. I had all my paperwork done. And so around December 17th, I got a letter in the mail saying that my DACA was revoked. Now, a little bit about why you could get your DACA revoked or taken away or just like canceled. Basically, that's what it was. Like, my DACA was no longer valid, even though I just renewed it and I had almost 2 years still on it. If you commit a felony or a misdemeanor, then you get your DACA revoked. I didn't do anything yet. They're supposed to let me go to court first because I have all those rights just like any other person does. So they didn't wait and allow me the rights to go to court, go in front of a judge, and let the judge decide whether I got a felony on my record, a misdemeanor, anything like that. None of that happened. They just completely revoked my DACA. And this was around December 17th, 3 days before my court date. Like, you couldn't wait 3 days, man. 3 days. I have cramps in my butt. Yeah, so I got this letter. I went to my boss and I was like, you know, I don't know what this is. It's the government, it's my life. And out of safety, I don't think that I should work. Even though the letter didn't say that, or I just didn't know. I knew that my DACA was taken away. I didn't know if my Social Security was still valid. I didn't want to do anything wrong. I don't want to commit any more crimes. So I was trying to be as safe as I possibly could. And if that means not working and not being paid to work, then whatever, I'll take it, you know? It's better than deportation. My boss at the time honestly was so nice and handled this situation in such a caring and loving way that I am forever grateful. He went above and beyond, at least like gave me the security of my job, which was so helpful in this situation, to at least know that like I can come back to my job when I figure out how to do this. He put me on immediate leave, basically like an emergency leave or something like that. My position is paused, and that's another thing that I was worried about because I just gotten a promotion. Now, let's fast forward to 3 days later, and it's my court date. I think my court date was around like 9 a.m. So my friend came and picked me up at like 8:30. No, like 8 o'clock. We had to go to my boyfriend because I forgot he had my folder of all my paperwork and everything. It's so funny how this happened because if I didn't forget that folder in his car, I would have never seen him that day. And little did I know that was the last day I was gonna see anybody. And I'm glad that I did because I was able to hug him, give him a kiss. That moment really, really helped me get through the next few months that happened in my life. So yeah, we're driving to the courthouse. You know, we park, we got some food, I'm drinking my coffee, and we're walking to the courthouse. And as we're walking to the courthouse, these two guys who are dressed in like regular clothes approach us. And this was around like 8:45, and they asked me if I was Omema or something like that. By the way, my actual name is Omema. Everyone just calls me Mema. And I was like, yeah, why? And he was like, we're gonna have to ask you to come with us. And to me, that's sketchy because they don't look like officers. So that's like sketchy to me, you know? I'm not going to go with you. I don't know you. And I had my friend Anthony with me. So thank God, because I probably would have just ran away and that would have been really bad. They pulled out a picture that they had of me, which was so bizarre. Like they just had this like giant picture of me. Like, why couldn't you get a small one? And they're like, oh, we're with the government and you're gonna have to come with us because unfortunately your DACA was revoked and you no longer have legal status. And I was like, yeah, no, I know. I got that in the mail. I'm not working or doing anything that I'm not supposed to be. And I have a court date that I'm supposed to be attending and it's illegal to miss court. So I was like, I can't miss this right now. My friend who was with me, Anthony, asked them if they had any ID. They pulled out their ID and it said Homeland Security. So I knew like they were ICE officers. At that moment, literally my heart sank because I don't know if like anyone foreign is watching this video, but around that time when that whole DACA was blowing up, there were so many ICE arrests happening and so many videos of ICE arrests. So as soon as I saw, like, I was like, oh shit, like ICE officers. I was like, why do I have to come with you? And he was like, you don't have legal status, so we have to place you under arrest. And I was like, why would I be arrested if I didn't do anything wrong? And they're like, well, you're a threat to society. They basically labeled me as a threat to society because they saw that I had been arrested. And I was like, yeah, I understand, but I'm supposed to go to court and I have my court right now. And if you come in with me, then you will see the results of whatever it is that's happening. And if I get a felony or a misdemeanor, according to the judge, then you have every right to arrest me after if you think I'm a threat to society since I no longer had my DACA. Nope, that was not the case. They were like, nope, you have to come with us. I remember I asked if I could grab my stuff and they wouldn't even let me go to the car to grab my stuff, even though the car was right there and they could see it. They wouldn't let me, so I had to cooperate with them. To me, that's just the best way to handle any situation. Even if I feel like I'm in the right and they're in the wrong, no matter what it is, I'm going to cooperate just so I don't have extra problems adding up to what's already, not going well. So I was like, okay, is it okay if my friend grabs my bag? And he was like, yeah, no, that's fine. Honestly, this officer, like, they were nice. Once they started talking to me, they realized, like, shit, this is a weird situation, because they realized that my English was perfect, I didn't have an accent, and that I was completely cooperative. Like, I'm not trying to fight you, even though I have no idea why you're doing this. I'm gonna go along with it, not ask too many questions, and not try to be a smartass and just try to figure out what is actually happening. It was about an hour drive to the ICE facility. Yeah, so me and this officer were talking, asked me if I wanted to call my mom. He let me turn my phone back on and call my mom, which was, again, super nice of him to do, because I don't think that you're even supposed to have access to your phone when you get arrested. And my mom was just like hysterically crying, so I told him, like, I don't think it's a good idea to call anyone right now. This is when he really started to feel bad and asked me, like, what happened, because all we see is an arrest. And for some reason, I was basically coming up as like a red flag on their computer, their ICE computer, or whatever it is, that I was a threat to society because I committed domestic violence, domestic abuse, whatever it is, against a minor. So I was coming up as like a red flag. Like, red flag to them is like people in gangs, people like smuggling guns, like that kind of stuff. And my situation was being put in that same category with all these actual felons, drug cartels, and like these people that were just, deserve to be arrested and are a threat to society because you're smuggling drugs and guns. So you are a threat to me and my children. Got it, cool. But I was in that category, and to me, I was like, whoa, what? Why am I being placed like as a threat to society according to these next to these people? And he was like, honestly, like, I don't know. Once he got my story and I explained everything, what happened, he just felt bad. And I could see that. He's like, this is not something I enjoy doing. It made me see that whole, that when that experience happened and I went to the ICE facility and got to talk to a lot of the ICE officers, it made me see them in a different light. because they're not the bad guys in this situation. There are a few of them who are probably racist or are doing it for the wrong reasons, but the majority that I met were genuinely good human beings that were just trying to protect their country. When situations like this happen, they show humanity, and they show, you know, how apologetic they were that they had to be the ones to be doing this to me. They were trying to make me feel as comfortable as I possibly could, and I really appreciated that. Yeah, as we're driving to the ICE facility, he is explaining the whole process and how it works, and he was like, you know, it takes about 2 weeks, and that's what he told me, which was, oh boy, was he wrong. I don't know if anyone is around from like the New England area, but on December 2017 going into January 2018 was a very, very, very bad winter. We had floods everywhere. Water was turning into ice after it was flooding like neighborhoods. Crazy wind, power was going out, schools were being shut down, ports are being shut down. So I literally went into went during the absolute worst time possible that you could think of. It was just bad. We have all the holidays coming, which means the courts are going to be closed. And then you have New Year's right after that. And yeah, then storms kept happening over and over and over again. You can't get a court date if the courts are constantly being closed. So yeah, it was around 9 o'clock when we started driving there. We got there at around 10-ish. He told me to wait so that he could escort me inside. Then he brought me inside, and I saw a bunch of, like, in the ICE facility, they have cells too, but you could see inside of them, like it was just all glass. And I saw a bunch of girls and I saw a bunch of guys. So then I was just sitting there. They let me call my family again to let them know where I was going to be taken and how to contact me and to get me a lawyer. And this process took 6 hours. And if you take away that hour of driving, then it's 5 hours, which is still crazy because the whole time they just explained the process to me. I signed a bunch of paperwork, and then I was just placed in this like literally square cell that had like one wall that you could sit on, and that's it. Literally the walls were right here, and the window where they could see me is right there. I couldn't even like stretch my legs out or anything. But yeah, I was in the ICE facility and I was waiting to be transported to prison. Yay, fine, because I was a threat to society. So this is where it gets confusing. After they take me to prison, well, before that, they have to chain you head to toe. You have your regular handcuffs, then there's chains that go around you and onto your waist, and then they go down to your feet, and then your feet get chained too. So I'm literally like having to hop like a bunny because it's a big step to get into like the van that they put you in the back where, you know, prisoners go to be transported from one place to the other. So they chained me, and it was another hour drive, and I was with a bunch of girls too because they were all going back to jail or being taken to jail or something like that. I went to the prison, I had to check in with them, and I basically was given clothes to change. They took away my clothes, my shoes, all that stuff. Hair ties too are not allowed. I don't really know why. There are so many things I learned, but that's gonna be in part 2, like my experience in jail of how crazy shit is in there, and like it's not nice. So I went to my unit and I was given the correct clothes to wear. We had like in my unit, it was like red pants, and I believe it was very, very dark green shirts that were gigantic. Everything was big, you know, because you can't be provocative in jail, duh. And it had like ICE written all over it in the back and the front or something like that. They offered me food and I kindly refused because all I wanted to do was sleep. I had such an exhausting day. You know, I was in a lot of shock because I still couldn't grasp and figure out why this is happening to me. And one thing that when I was talking to the girls after, like that were in jail for a little bit, the very little English that we could communicate with, because most of them just didn't speak English that well, was the fact that I was very positive and I did not cry once in this process. And I think it's just my personality, but I also have this defense mechanism where I shut down my feelings when I'm going through something like this. It's not the healthiest thing. It's helpful in the moment when I'm dealing with it, but it's very hard to switch back to get those emotions back once I go through whatever it is. Yeah, I was just emotionless. I was quiet. There was never a single tear that was shed in that whole process. I was so quiet and emotionless for so long that it was very hard to face this and deal with it. And that's why I apologize if this was kind of all over the place, but this is my first time actually like speaking about it out loud and explaining the process without joking about it or making silly comments here and there to try to ease or run away from the actual situation. So yeah, this is my first time actually addressing it and facing it and talking about it, even if I don't like to. After that, I called my family so that they could get me a lawyer, and they got me the most amazing, beautiful, kind-hearted lawyer I have ever met. She is the angel of all angels. She has helped me in the best way and more. She was there for my family, for my mom. Every day she was working on my case. Every single day she was keeping me updated. And I went and met with her, and this is where it gets confusing. Now, as I told you, as I mentioned, I was labeled as a threat to society. I was going to jail for being a threat to society because of the arrest that happened. But she told me that that's not what I'm being charged with. ICE is charging me with violating my visa back when I was 9 years old. I had no part in the decision making of me overstaying. I didn't know what a visa was, but these are the charges that were being thrown against me by ICE, and I thought that was just really bizarre. But I'm going to conclude this here because it's very long. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. I've been talking for 2 hours. I hope you enjoyed part 1. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'm going to be discussing my actual experience inside the jail, the process that I had to go through, the fact that my 2 weeks turned into 2 months there. That may not seem like a lot to some people, but for a person like me, he's never been to jail. I don't mess with the law. I don't mess with, the system. I respect that shit. And honestly, it was the hardest because I didn't know when I was gonna get out. So like every day, I'm just waiting. I couldn't go outside, even though like criminals could. There was just a lot that happened that made this seem like it was like a year for me. I also had nobody to talk to in there because, like I said, all these people that were arrested, the girls that were in there, first of all, were much older than me, and they barely spoke English, the majority of them. I ended up making actually a lot of friends after, and I'll talk about that in part 2. But someone like me, I need my brain to be stimulated constantly by conversation, by deep conversation, by good conversations, any kind of intellectual conversation. The level of English was very limited between me and these people. I had my Australian roommate, cellmate, who I could talk to, but this girl was schizophrenic, batshit crazy, and that's a whole nother story time. Straight up thought she was going to get up one day and just kill me. But yeah, I'm done talking. My mouth is dry. But thank you so much for watching this video and for sticking through the whole thing. Yeah, stay tuned for part 2. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. If you like my content and you like this story time, then maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.